The Lumbee tribe has gotten some very well-deserved attention and interest after learning about our connection with the lost colony of Roanoke. And it's a great story that really exemplifies our welcoming and kind nature. But this is not that story. I'm a citizen of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, and this is the story of how the KKK tried to hold their very first rally in Robeson County. And boy, would it be their last. It was January 1958. And this was the height of segregation and the height of a lot of racial tension in North Carolina and specifically in Robeson County. Legend has it that this all began because of a divorce proceeding between a white couple in which the wife was accused of having an affair with an indigenous man from Robeson County. And I have no idea if this woman actually had an affair or not. But the point is, a man named Catfish Cole heard about this and was absolutely outraged. Catfish Cole was a Klansman who started a chapter here in North Carolina and became the Grand Wizard of that chapter. And he was very vocal about his disdain for the Lumbee people. He was calling us all kinds of names and calling us half-breeds and all kinds of stuff. It was crazy. And this was only a couple of years after the Lumbee Act of 1956, where the federal government acknowledged us as indigenous people. So he was absolutely not happy with us. So he started getting his people together and thought, you know what, we're gonna show him who's boss. Joke's on him. He was having a hard time trying to get a permit to even come to Robeson County to hold a rally because nobody would sign off on it. And I am 100% positive that he had never been told no in his entire life, and for the first time he met some opposition in Robeson County. Even the police, the sheriff called him and said, hey, these Lumbee people are not going to allow you to rally here, and there's nothing that we're going to do to try to protect you. But Catfish Cole was a little bit too big for his britches, and he started handing out flyers for a rally in Maxton, North Carolina. This was also announced in the Robesonian, the newspaper, and as soon as that happened, the Lumbee people were like, bet.
They knew when to go and what to carry, and everybody just made plans. The first thing they'd say, be sure you got your pistol. And if you don't have a pistol, carry your rifle. So I had both.
Of all the interviews I've seen about this event, that one is definitely one of my favorites. But yes, the entire town of Pembroke was buzzing exactly like that. They basically said, well, if they're coming to Maxton, I reckon we're going to Maxton too then. So it was pretty much decided that anybody that was wanting to come prepared, and we're going to confront these people. This is where it gets interesting. I'm a citizen of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, and this is part 2 of the Battle of Hayes Pond. So the day has come, January 18th, 1958. Catfish Cole heads into Maxton, North Carolina to set up his rally. If you've ever been in Robeson County, then you know it's a lot of swampy lands out there. So Catfish Cole was setting up for his Klan rally over by Hayes Pond near Maxton in a field of what is described as being broom straw. Catfish Cole initially expected about 5,000 Klansmen to be there, but because of the heat, about 50 of them actually showed up, including Catfish Cole's wife and children as well. He sets up a stage, a microphone, and one singular light bulb lighting up this field. Well, about 500 Lumbee men and women, armed, surrounded this field of 50 people. And at first they waited because they were not going to take any action unless they gave them a reason to do so. And the moment that Catfish Cole tried to speak, 2 Lumbees walked up to him and said, hey, you are not going to speak today. We're not going to allow you to do so. They put a barrel to his head and said, if you speak, we will unalive you right now. But instead of doing that, the barrel was then pointed to the singular light source in the field and they shot it out. So the field went completely dark. This is out in the country. There is no other lights. The moment that this field goes dark, absolute chaos ensued. Shots were fired, literally. A lot of our people are veterans. Some of the people there served in World War II and the Korean War, and they have all said that it is an absolute miracle that there were no casualties that night. And not only were they firing into complete darkness, these Lumbees were dragging the Klansmen out of their cars as they were trying to get away and, beating them up. And the craziest part about this to me is that in all of this chaos, Catfish Cole is running into the swamp and he leaves his wife and children behind to try to get away. And his wife is trying to drive away from the chaos and she gets her car stuck in the ditch. And a bunch of Lumbees stopped fighting to go help her get her car out of the ditch so she could get her youngins out of there when her own husband and their father ran away like a coward. There were police and reporters there as well, but there was not enough police at all to try to break up this. And the only one that ended up facing any kind of charges was Catfish Cole himself. It's considered a great victory by many, and it's most certainly a source of pride for pretty much all Lumbee people that I've ever known. This was such an influential moment that there was even a spread about it in Time magazine. Can you imagine? And to this day, the KKK has never tried to hold another rally in Robeson County ever again.
There's no way I could have told that story any better than my cousin did, just right there. So I'll leave it at that. The Battle of Hayes Pond is one of the many oral stories or history that we're raised with. My personal oral history story from my family is my grandfather and his brother were actually at the Battle of Hayes Pond, and on their way to Maxton, they passed a black gentleman walking. And so they pulled over side the road and said, "Which way are you heading, Papa?" I said, "I'm heading to Maxton." He said, "You don't want to go that way." I said, "You need to go somewhere else for a while." He said, "No, I have business in Maxton, so I really have to head that way." My grandfather said, "Okay then, if you insist." He said, "But if you have to go, you have to ride in the trunk. And no matter what you do, no matter what happens, don't get out of the trunk." He said, "Okay then." And of course, he probably shared with him what was going on. The gentleman got in the trunk. He rode with my grandfather and his brother to the Battle of Hayes Pond, stayed in the trunk the entire time, and they ended up taking him where they needed to go afterwards. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe.